Minister, today you unveiled your vision for the digital economy for Ireland. What does this vision contain, and what kind of things will we see happening in our country in the next couple of years?
Okay, well, today's report was coming out of our Knowledge Society work. It was very much about the economy and jobs. I mean, we've got further work to do about the whole e-inclusion, the social aspect of how we develop our internet, develop a digital country. But this was about creating jobs, and it was 6 specific projects that I think are the best chance of us creating jobs. We have technology companies in this country now that have real skills. The likes of Intune Networks today, we're saying we're going to use that sort of technology they have in advanced fibre optic systems to use our network here as an exemplar network. Put their technology onto the state-owned fibre optic system to get really high speeds. You know, to put Dublin a microsecond ahead of London in transatlantic connections, that creates jobs. That brings in banking jobs, that brings in jobs in the company itself. They're saying they want to take on 300 people today. Secondly, I think around data centres there's a huge amount of jobs, but particularly green data centres. What the international companies want now is to cut their emissions. We are a relatively cool country. We can actually have data centres here that use less energy, that can use clean energy. Thirdly, and this is probably the biggest volume in terms of jobs, 25 years ago, 15 years ago, someone came up with the idea of having an international financial services centre. 15 years later, we have 25,000 people working in it, really well-paid, stable jobs. I think there's a similar opportunity in terms of international traded services, content providers. We have to provide a proper legal copyright system for that here, which is fair but recognises that this new media needs a different contracting arrangement. But by doing that, we can actually create a content centre here. And I suppose the fundamental principle is when you build your networks, when you have your fibre optic system really humming, you can then trade from any part of Ireland to any part of the world. You can create a services job here anywhere. You can sell a service or create a service here, sell it to China. The Chinese person will pay for it via PayPal, which is done via Dublin. And that just revolves around itself and creates the economic opportunity here. It's clean as well. I mean, the clear thing is that if you look at what's happening around the world, people are looking for these new technologies, but they want them to be clean, to be low emissions, and they can be. So I think the fourth, if I was to 5 actually, I'll do 2 more. One is actually developing that smart grid, that electricity system that's really efficient, but also really cuts back emissions. And the ESB have done a huge amount of work in that. We can leverage that into more jobs. And lastly, in the Internet of Things, in the kind of development of remote sensory devices, we can provide environmental information, we can provide better traffic management systems, but we can also provide jobs, because they're the sort of services people are going to want. And again, it's happening. I mean, IBM are out at the moment in Galway Bay with probably a world-leading example of a smart sensory, remote sensory collection system. So it's happening. We can use the skills we have in our own companies, in our telecoms and energy supply companies, as well as in our international companies based here, to create this new innovative platform, a new digital economy, and create jobs.
First and foremost, the most important thing is infrastructure, and the Exemplar network is going to be used to dovetail with the creation of the one-stop shop. Can you tell me when the one-stop shop will come into being, and when we'll see the first fruits of the Exemplar network?
Okay. Well, we're already working in terms of, we have State Fibre working, the MANS. We've just signed the management service agreement for the second phase of MANS Towns, so that's up and running and open and available. We have the ESB running a state-owned fibre optic network. We want to go further. We want to use all the ducting we have in our roads, in our railways, in our canals, any state infrastructure, pipes, anywhere, to actually gas pipelines, to actually deliver a much more widespread fibre optic network. We set that out as our plan last year. We've been working in the last year mapping it, setting out where that network exists, and also the model we'd apply to how we actually use it. Do you give it to a company to develop, or do you have a competitive bidding process? We'll come out with the answer to that in the next couple of months and then get on with it.
The Irish telecoms industry will also have a role to play in building out network and investing in network on an ongoing basis. How do you see them interacting with the one-stop shop and the Exemplar network?
Well, I think the Exemplar network is something, this is our view. You can never be certain how technology is going to develop, but I think the sort of fibre optic advance they have is actually truly disruptive. It actually overcomes what's probably one of the biggest constraints in the global development of the internet. The fact that our switching equipment, our routers, can't handle the volume of traffic. They're starting to heat. And I've seen it. I mean, go and talk to the countries where there is really high-speed fibre now in place and ask them how is it working. The first thing they say is, well, it's okay, but we have a problem with the routers because they're literally cooking with the amount of traffic going through them. This disruptive technology overcomes that problem. It actually colour codes the fibre optic message to allow it to avoid such a switching point. And I think it'll be truly disruptive. And I suppose what we're saying here, by developing it here first, we'll get an economic advantage out of that in our own networks. So I'd be going to the telecom companies and saying, lads, we're going to be investing, we're going to try and get this up and running here. It makes sense for you to do the same. And I hope it's that encouragement. Government leads, I'm quite sure industry will follow, because it makes sense. It makes economic sense, and it makes the internet faster.
Mr. Thank you very much.